There is a specific moment in the aftermath of leaving an avoidant that is particularly revealing, a moment when something shifts in how they approach the possibility of reconnection. It is the moment when they realize with unmistakable clarity that you are not going to make this easy, that you are not going to cave with a single meaningful message, that you are not going to soften if they show up with the right words or the right performance of vulnerability, that you are not going to reward their efforts with immediate forgiveness or access or the comfort of your attention. This realization arrives on different timelines for different avoidants. For some, it comes after weeks of unanswered messages. For others, it takes months of patterns before they understand that the old dynamics are not going to reassert themselves. But when it lands with a specific kind of weight, because it means the avoidant has to confront something they have avoided their entire life. The possibility that they might actually have to do real work to get what they want, and that even after doing that work, there is no guarantee it will succeed. What makes this moment so revealing is what the avoidant does with this realization. Because their response to this moment, to the reality that reconnection will not be easy, that you will not make it easy, that they cannot manipulate their way back, tells you everything you need to know about whether they are capable of genuine change or whether they are simply going to intensify their efforts at control and manipulation. Most avoidants, when faced with this realization, do one of two things. They either escalate their tactics, becoming more desperate, more transparent in their manipulation, more willing to drop the performance and show you exactly how selfish and controlling they actually are. Or they disappear, giving up almost entirely, because the effort required to actually change is simply too much, and if they cannot have you easily, they are not going to have you at all. Either way, their response confirms something you already knew but perhaps needed to witness. That reconnection with you was never really about love. It was about control, about not being abandoned, about maintaining access to your emotional labor. And the moment it becomes clear that reconnection requires actual effort, actual vulnerability, actual change, the moment it stops being easy, the avoidant's true priorities become visible. The moment they realize easy reconnection is not possible. For weeks or months, the avoidant has been operating on a specific assumption, that if they just reach out with the right message, with the right amount of seeming vulnerability, with the right performance of change, you will respond. They have learned from every previous relationship or conflict that people eventually cave. That patience and persistence and the right combination of words can wear down even the strongest boundary. They reach out casually. Hey, how have you been? You do not respond, or you respond with kindness but without engagement. The avoidant adjusts their approach. They try again with slightly more depth. I've been thinking about us a lot. You do not respond. They try a different angle. I miss talking to you. Still nothing. And then, after multiple attempts with multiple approaches, all of which have failed, the avoidant begins to understand something they have never really had to confront before. You are not going to make this easy. You are not going to provide the validation they are seeking. You are not going to reward their efforts by coming back. You are not going to let them off easy just because they have finally decided they want you back. This realization is often the first time in the avoidant's life that someone has refused to play along with their narrative. They are accustomed to people who wait. They are accustomed to people who eventually give in. They are accustomed to being able to control the outcome through manipulation and patience. But you have broken that pattern. You have refused to play. You have maintained your boundary with a consistency they did not anticipate and do not know how to manage. And in that moment of realization, something shifts in the avoidant. Because they now understand that reconnection, if it is going to happen at all, is going to require something they are profoundly uncomfortable with. Genuine change, genuine vulnerability, genuine effort without guarantee of success. The specific tactics they might escalate. When the casual approaches do not work, when the light touches of vulnerability and seeming change do not land, the avoidant often escalates their tactics. And this escalation is very revealing because it shows what they are actually willing to do when their usual approach fails. The first escalation is often increased contact. If their usual pattern is to reach out once a week, they might start reaching out multiple times a week. If they usually send short messages, they might start sending longer, more detailed messages. The logic is that if one attempt does not work, perhaps more attempts will work. That sheer volume might eventually wear you down. This escalation reveals something important, that the avoidant's primary motivation is not your well-being, but their own comfort. If they truly cared about your healing, your peace, your need for space, they would respect your lack of response as a clear boundary. But instead, they interpret your silence as stubbornness that can be overcome with persistence. The second escalation is often more transparency in their emotional display. If their earlier messages were carefully controlled performances of vulnerability, their escalated messages might become more raw, more desperate, more obviously driven by panic than by genuine remorse. They might reveal more clearly that their motivation is not to make you feel better, but to make themselves feel better, to get you to stop their discomfort. Messages like "I cannot stop thinking about you" or "I am falling apart without you" are designed to trigger your compassion and move you to respond. These messages are often described as vulnerable, but they are actually quite manipulative. They are attempts to make their emotional state your responsibility, to create guilt, to imply that if you do not respond, you are responsible for their suffering. The third escalation is often a shift toward guilt and blame. If gentle vulnerability does not work, the avoidant might shift toward more explicit manipulation. "I cannot believe you are being this cruel," or "If you cared about me at all, you would at least respond," or "You are destroying me with this silence." These statements are designed to make you the villain in their narrative. They reframe your boundary setting as cruelty. They attempt to make you responsible for their emotional state. They imply that your refusal to reconnect is not a valid choice, but a personal attack on them. The fourth escalation is often reaching out through other people. If direct contact fails, the avoidant might attempt to reestablish connection through mutual friends, through family members, through anyone who might have your ear. They might ask mutual friends to convince you to respond. They might reach out to your social media through comments or private messages. They might engineer chance encounters. This escalation reveals something crucial: that the avoidant is willing to involve other people in their attempts to manipulate you back into their life. They are willing to create social complications, to potentially damage your friendships, to put mutual friends in uncomfortable positions, all in service of their need to regain control. The fifth escalation is often a sudden shift toward demonstrated change. After all the subtle approaches fail, the avoidant might suddenly begin posting about their therapy, their growth, their new perspectives. They might point to these public demonstrations of change as evidence that they are different now, that reconnection is worth reconsidering. But here is what is important to understand. This demonstrated change, while it might be real in some superficial ways, is not happening for the reasons they claim it is. The avoidant is not in therapy because they have finally understood their patterns and genuinely want to change for their own sake. They are in therapy because not being able to reconnect with you has become intolerable, and they are hoping that demonstrated change will be the magic key that finally opens the door they cannot control. What this escalation reveals about their priorities. As the avoidant escalates their tactics, trying different approaches, increasing their frequency, becoming more transparent in their desperation, what becomes clear is what their actual priorities are. And their priorities are not you. Their priorities are not your well-being. Their priorities are not even really about loving you. Their priorities are about regaining control, about making the discomfort stop, about reasserting the dynamic where they get to decide when the relationship ends and when it begins again, about proving to themselves that they are still capable of managing you, that you are still capturable, that their power over you has not actually disappeared. When you refuse to make reconnection easy, when you maintain your boundary regardless of their escalation, you are essentially telling the avoidant, "Your comfort is not my responsibility. Your need for control does not supersede my need for peace. Your desire to reconnect does not obligate me to engage with you." And this message is devastating to them, not because it means they have lost you, they already knew they had lost you, but because it means they have lost the ability to control whether they have you or not. And for someone whose entire emotional survival strategy has been based on control, this loss of control is catastrophic. The avoidance escalation is actually a window into their true character. It is them showing you quite clearly that when their manipulations do not work, when their tactics fail, when they cannot get what they want through subtle means, they will resort to increasingly aggressive and controlling behavior. They will increase contact you do not want. They will involve other people. They will shift toward blame and guilt. They will try to make their emotional state your responsibility. None of this is the behavior of someone who loves you. This is the behavior of someone who is panicking about losing control. The specific moment when they understand it is actually over. After weeks or months of escalation, after trying every tactic in their arsenal, after reaching out through every available channel and being met with consistent non-engagement, there comes a specific moment when the avoidant begins to understand something new. Not that the relationship is over, they already knew that. But that reconnection is actually not going to happen, that you are not going to cave, that their efforts, no matter how many or how creative, are not going to work. This understanding often arrives as its own kind of crisis, because the avoidant has been operating on the assumption that with enough time, enough effort, enough of the right message, you would eventually respond. That eventually you would give in, that eventually their persistence would wear you down. The moment they realize this is not going to happen is the moment they have to confront the full weight of what they have lost and what they cannot control. They have to sit with the knowledge that there is someone in the world who will not be manipulated by them, who will not cave to their efforts, who has genuinely moved on and will not come back. For some avoidants, this moment produces a kind of despair. They may become depressed, may retreat, may go through a period where they stop reaching out entirely. This period can be dangerous as the avoidant confronts feelings of profound helplessness and loss of control. For other avoidants, this moment produces a kind of rage. They may become angry at you for not responding, for being cruel, for not giving them what they deserved. They may start making more explicit statements about what they are owed, how you should respond, why your boundary is unreasonable. This rage is often the avoidant's way of regaining a sense of control. If they cannot control whether you come back, they can at least control their narrative about why you will not. For still other avoidants, this moment produces a kind of acceptance or at least a shift in strategy. They may stop reaching out directly and may focus instead on living a visible life, posting about their recovery, their growth, their new relationships, all designed to show you what you are missing. They are no longer trying to reconnect directly. They are trying to make you regret that you did not reconnect. Why the avoidant cannot simply accept the no. One of the most frustrating things about the avoidant's response to being told no, explicitly or implicitly, is their inability to simply accept it. Most people, when they face consistent non-response and clear boundary setting, eventually accept that the door is closed and move on. But the avoidant often cannot do this. They struggle to accept that no is final, that your boundary is real, that reconnection is genuinely not going to happen. This inability to accept the no comes from a few sources. First, it comes from their lived experience. In the past, when people set boundaries or rejected the avoidant strategy of persistent, patient distance-taking eventually worked. People gave in, people came back, people agreed to reconnect. The avoidant learned through repeated experience that no does not mean no, it means not yet. Second, it comes from their deep discomfort with being out of control. As long as there is any possibility, however remote, that they might be able to manipulate the situation, the avoidant is in a less uncomfortable place. Once they fully accept that there is no possibility, that they have lost control entirely, they are left with nothing but their own internal emptiness and their own lack of emotional resources. Third, it comes from their need to maintain a specific narrative about themselves. The avoidant often sees themselves as someone who is capable, who can get what they want, who understands how relationships work and how to navigate them. Someone who refuses to accept their no, who maintains a boundary despite all their efforts, violates this self-image. So the avoidant keeps trying, keeps reaching out, keeps believing that one more message, one more approach, one more demonstration of change might be the thing that finally works. The avoidant's inability to accept no is both exhausting for you and revealing. It shows you that their boundary testing will not stop unless you make it stop, through consistent, unrelenting non-engagement. It shows you that their respect for your choices is conditional on those choices benefiting them. It shows you that they will not accept your autonomy if that autonomy means losing access to you. The specific cruelty of making reconnection difficult. When you refuse to make reconnection easy, when you maintain your boundary despite their escalation, when you do not respond to their messages or engage with their attempts at manipulation, the avoidant often interprets this as cruelty. They will tell themselves and possibly tell you or others that you are being cruel by refusing to respond, cruel by not giving them the chance to apologize, cruel by not acknowledging their efforts to change. But here is what is important to understand. Your refusal to make reconnection easy is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is self-protection. It is the most loving thing you can do, not for the avoidant, but for yourself. Making reconnection easy would mean responding to their messages even when you do not want to engage. Entertaining the possibility of reconnection even though you know it would be unhealthy. Rewarding their manipulation by showing that it works. Teaching them that if they persist long enough, they can get what they want. Sacrificing your own peace for their comfort. Placing their emotional state above your own well-being. None of these things would be kind. All of these things would be harmful to you, and ultimately harmful to them, because they would reinforce the exact patterns that made the relationship unsustainable. Your refusal to make reconnection easy is actually the kindest thing you can do, because it is the only thing that has any chance of teaching the avoidant that their old strategies do not work, that manipulation is not effective, that they cannot control everyone into submission. But the avoidant will not see it this way. The avoidant will experience your firm boundary as rejection, as punishment, as cruelty, and you do not have to defend yourself against this interpretation. You do not have to explain why you are doing what you are doing. You do not have to justify your boundary. Your boundary stands on its own merit. Your boundary is valid because you say it is valid. Your boundary does not require the avoidant's understanding or approval or acceptance, the moment when they realize they have to actually change. If the avoidant gets far enough into this process, if they are capable of real self-reflection, there comes a specific moment when they might realize something profound. They might realize that reconnection is not going to happen through manipulation. That you will not come back because they showed up with the right words or the right performance. That the only way reconnection could possibly happen, and they should understand this is unlikely, is if they actually, genuinely, fundamentally change. This realization is terrifying to the avoidant because genuine change requires things they are profoundly uncomfortable with. Admitting that their behavior was wrong, facing their own wounds, sitting with vulnerability and shame without running away, building new neural pathways through consistent effort over extended time, and even after all that work, having no guarantee that it will produce the outcome they want. Most avoidants, when faced with this realization, do not choose to do the work, because the work is hard and the payoff is uncertain, and they have no guarantee that even after doing everything right, you will give them another chance, so they give up. They decide it is easier to move on to someone new, someone who might be more forgiving, someone who might accept less, someone they might be able to control more easily. But some avoidants, a smaller percentage, might actually do the work. They might enter therapy with genuine intention. They might begin examining their patterns not to win you back, but because they have started to understand on some level that their way of being in relationships is causing them pain and is going to continue to cause them pain until something changes. If this happens, if the avoidant does the work, if they change, if they become someone different, it still does not mean you are obligated to reconnect. It still does not mean you have to give them another chance. Your decision to stay away remains valid regardless of whether they change or not. But at least in this scenario, their suffering has produced something: genuine growth, genuine change, genuine opportunity for them to have healthier relationships going forward. But again, this scenario is not common. Most avoidants will not choose to do the work. What their inability to accept your no teaches you about them. Every time the avoidant reaches out despite your non-response, every time they escalate their tactics despite your clear boundary, every time they try a new approach to break through your firmness, they are teaching you something important about who they actually are. They are teaching you that they do not respect your autonomy. If they respected your autonomy, they would accept your choice to not engage. They would trust that you know what is best for you. They would let you go. They are teaching you that they do not respect your boundaries. If they respected your boundaries, they would not keep testing them, would not keep trying new angles, would not keep looking for the weakness in your resolve. They are teaching you that they care more about their own comfort than about your well-being. If they cared about your well-being, they would recognize that constant contact, constant attempts at reconnection, constant efforts to manipulate you back into their life are harmful to your healing. They are teaching you that they have not actually changed. If they had genuinely changed, if they had truly understood what they did wrong, their behavior would look different. They would respect your boundary. They would give you space. They would allow you to heal without interference. They are teaching you that reconnection, if it ever happened, would likely recreate the same patterns. Because someone who cannot respect a boundary when you are separated from them, someone who constantly tests and probes for weaknesses in your resolve, someone who will not accept no, is someone who would also struggle to respect your boundaries and your autonomy within a relationship. Every time they do not take your no as an answer, they are actually confirming that you made the right decision to leave. They are providing evidence that the relationship ended because of a fundamental incompatibility in how you and they move through the world. They are showing you quite clearly that they are not capable of the respect and autonomy that healthy relationships require. The specific facade that begins to crack. As the avoidant persists in their attempts at reconnection despite your clear non-engagement, the careful facade they have been maintaining often begins to crack. The performance of being someone who has changed, someone who is genuinely remorseful, someone who just wants what is best for you, that performance becomes harder to maintain when it is clear that it is not working. And as the facade cracks, what often emerges is something closer to the truth. The avoidant's frustration, their anger, their sense of entitlement, their belief that they deserve to have you respond, their conviction that your refusal is unfair and unjust and a violation of what they are owed. Messages start to shift from "I miss you" and "I am sorry" to "I cannot believe you are being this cruel," or "You are destroying me with this silence," or "I deserved better than this from you." The tone becomes less about their own growth and more about your failings, your cruelty, your unwillingness to move forward. This shift is revealing because it shows you what was underneath the performance all along. The performance of change was never actually about change. It was about winning you back. And when winning you back becomes impossible through the performance, the avoidant abandons the performance and shows you what was really driving their attempts at reconnection. Not love, not remorse, not genuine change, but frustration at being unable to control you, anger at being unable to get what they want, resentment at you for refusing to make it easy. This cracking of the facade is actually a gift, in a way, because it removes any doubt you might have about whether reconnection would be a good idea. If the avoidant's true character, once the performance drops, is anger and entitlement and frustration with your boundary, then you have confirmation that reconnection would recreate the exact dynamic you left. Why your refusal to make it easy is actually powerful. There is a specific power in your refusal to make reconnection easy. There is a specific power in your consistent non-response, your unwavering boundary, your absolute refusal to engage with their attempts at manipulation. This power comes from the fact that you are not allowing the avoidant to control the narrative. As long as you do not respond, as long as you do not engage, the avoidant cannot construct a story about what happened between you, what you meant to each other, what the future might hold. Your silence forces them to sit alone with their own interpretation of events, their own understanding of what they did and what it cost. This power also comes from the fact that you are teaching the avoidant through your actions that their old strategies do not work. They reach out, you do not respond. They escalate, you do not respond. They change tactics, you do not respond. Eventually they learn, or they do not learn, but at least they are forced to confront that manipulation does not work with you. This power also comes from the fact that you are protecting yourself. By refusing to make reconnection easy, you are not allowing yourself to be gradually worn down, to be seduced by their performance of change, to be manipulated back into a relationship that was unhealthy. Your refusal protects you, and your protection is powerful. And the final power comes from the fact that you are prioritizing your own well-being above the avoidant's comfort. You are saying, through your actions, that your peace matters more than their desire to reconnect. Your healing matters more than their panic. Your future matters more than their past. This prioritization of yourself is powerful, not because it punishes the avoidant, but because it sets the foundation for a life that is genuinely yours, that is not built around managing someone else's emotions or trying to convince someone to care about you. The specific phases of their response. As the avoidant moves through the experience of your firm boundary, they typically move through several distinct phases. Understanding these phases can help you anticipate what might come next and remain steadfast in your resolve. The first phase is often optimism. The avoidant reaches out certain that this time the right message, the right approach will land. This phase can last weeks, depending on the avoidant's resilience and their confidence in their ability to manipulate. The second phase is confusion. When their initial approaches do not work, the avoidant becomes confused. Why is this not working? Why are you not responding? They try different approaches, different tones, different angles. They are searching for the magic combination that will unlock your response. The third phase is escalation. When confusion gives way to the realization that standard approaches are not working, the avoidant escalates. They increase contact, they become more transparent in their desperation, they try new tactics. The fourth phase is rage or despair. When escalation also fails, the avoidant often moves into either rage, anger at you for not responding, resentment at your refusal, or despair, depression about the loss, hopelessness about the possibility of reconnection. The fifth phase is either acceptance or a shift to a new strategy. The avoidant either begins to genuinely accept that reconnection is not going to happen, or they shift to a new strategy, perhaps attempting to make you regret your decision by showing you what you are missing, or attempting to move on while secretly hoping you will eventually regret leaving. Each of these phases is difficult to witness if you witness any of them. But each of these phases is also necessary for the avoidant to move forward, even if they do not recognize it as such. What it means that they cannot let it go. One of the most telling signs that someone was never actually interested in genuine connection is their inability to let go and move on. If the avoidant genuinely loved you, if their interest in reconnection was genuine, they would be capable of respecting your boundary and moving forward with their life. But the avoidant often cannot do this. They cannot let it go. They cannot move on. They continue to reach out, continue to test your boundary, continue to hold on to the possibility of reconnection long after it should be obvious that reconnection is not going to happen. This inability to let go tells you something important, that what they want is not actually you. What they want is a return to a state of comfort where they had control. What they want is to fix the problem of your absence. What they want is to restore the dynamic where they get to decide the terms of intimacy. Someone who truly loved you would eventually accept your choice and let you go. They would grieve the loss, yes, but they would also eventually move forward into a new life. The fact that the avoidant cannot seem to do this is evidence that their interest in reconnection was never about love. It was about control. It was about not being abandoned. It was about managing their own discomfort. It was about power. Understanding this can help you release any remaining guilt about your refusal to make reconnection easy. You are not being cruel. You are not being unfair. You are simply refusing to participate in their attempt to control you, and the avoidant's inability to accept this refusal is their problem to work through, not yours. The specific boundary work you are doing. When you refuse to make reconnection easy, when you maintain your boundary despite their escalation, you are doing boundary work, real boundary work. The kind of boundary work that is extraordinarily difficult, but also extraordinarily important. Boundary work requires you to not respond to messages you want to respond to. Not explain yourself when you want to defend yourself. Not soften when you want to soothe their pain. Not give an inch when you want to find a compromise. Not engage when you want to set the record straight. Not hope when you want to believe things might be different. This work is hard, this work is lonely. This work sometimes feels cruel, even though it is not, but this work is also what allows you to heal. This work is what protects you. This work is what teaches both you and the avoidant that you are serious about the boundary you have set. Every time you do not respond, you are proving to yourself that you can honor your own needs even when honoring them is difficult. Every time you do not engage, you are proving to yourself that you can maintain your resolve even when the pull to cave is strong. This boundary work is not punishment of the avoidant. This boundary work is love of yourself, and that love is the foundation of everything that comes next. The avoidant's attempt to rewrite the narrative. As the avoidant moves further into their realization that you will not make reconnection easy, they often attempt to rewrite the narrative of what happened in the relationship. This rewriting serves a protective function for them, allowing them to maintain their self-image while also explaining your refusal to engage. The avoidant might construct a narrative where you were always the problem, where you were too needy, where your expectations were unrealistic, where you were impossible to please. In this narrative, the avoidant was simply a victim of your demands. The avoidant might construct a narrative where they never really cared that much, where the relationship was never as important as you thought it was, where you are pathetic for still caring about them. In this narrative, the avoidant was actually relieved to escape. The avoidant might construct a narrative where you were the one being cruel and controlling, where your refusal to respond is an act of emotional abuse, where the avoidant is actually the victim of your behavior. All of these narratives serve the same purpose. They allow the avoidant to maintain their self-image as a good person, someone who tried their best, someone who was wronged, someone who was not responsible for the failure of the relationship. You do not have to accept or engage with any of these narratives. You know what actually happened. You know the pattern. You know what you tried and what the avoidant refused to do. You know why you left. The avoidant's rewriting of events is not something you have to defend yourself against. It is simply another strategy, another attempt to regain some sense of control, another way of dealing with the reality that you will not come back. Let the avoidant tell themselves whatever story they need to tell themselves. Your truth remains unchanged by their narrative. The specific relief that comes with accepting it is over. At a certain point, after weeks or months of the avoidant's escalated attempts at reconnection, a specific relief can come when you finally, fully accept that it is truly over. Not just that the relationship is over, but that reconnection is not going to happen, that the avoidance efforts are futile, that you never have to worry about being manipulated into giving them another chance. This acceptance brings a peace that is profound. Because as long as there is any part of you that is still hoping, still wondering, still leaving a door open to the possibility of reconnection, you are not free. But once you truly accept that reconnection is not going to happen, that the avoidance attempts are never going to work, that you are genuinely moving forward without them, that is when true freedom arrives. And this freedom allows you to let go of the relationship entirely, not just physically, but emotionally. You can stop replaying conversations. You can stop wondering if you made the wrong decision. You can stop monitoring their behavior to see if they have changed. You can stop caring whether their latest attempt at reconnection is more sophisticated or more transparent than the last. You are free, genuinely, completely free. And the avoidant, by refusing to make reconnection easy, has actually given you this freedom. Because their persistence in trying despite your boundary, their inability to accept no, their continued attempts at manipulation, all of this has made it absolutely clear that reconnection is never going to happen and that you never want it to. So in a strange way, you should be grateful for their persistence, because it has freed you more completely than any amicable breakup ever could, the specific ways they will test your boundary. As the avoidant realizes that reconnection will not be easy, they will develop increasingly sophisticated ways of testing whether your boundary is actually as firm as you have made it appear. Understanding these tests helps you prepare yourself for them and remain unmoved. The first test is the casual message that seems completely unrelated to reconnection. They might message you about a piece of your property they found, or a mutual friend's news, or something else that seems innocuous. The message itself is not actually about reconnection. It is a test. Will you respond to this? If you do, they know the door is not entirely closed. The second test is the message that contains a subtle hook designed to draw a response. They might ask you a question that they know you care about, or reference something you are passionate about, or mention something happening in your life that they expect you would want to discuss. They are testing whether you can resist engaging even when they dangle something attractive in front of you. The third test is the message that seems to come from a place of genuine pain or vulnerability. They might message you about how much they are struggling, how much they miss you, how much you meant to them. The message is designed to trigger your compassion and draw you into a response. The fourth test is the message that comes from what seems like a place of transformation. They might tell you about therapy they are in, meditation they are doing, changes they have made. They are testing whether evidence of change will convince you to respond, to engage, to reconsider. The fifth test is the message that tries to appeal to your sense of fairness or justice. They might ask why you will not even respond to them, what they did that was so terrible that they deserve this silence, whether you think this is fair. They are trying to create a sense that you are being unreasonable, that you owe them a response, that your boundary is excessive. The sixth test is the message that comes from someone else. A mutual friend reaches out on the avoidant's behalf. A family member messages you with the avoidant's words. Someone else tries to convince you to give them a chance. The avoidant is testing whether your boundary is actually yours or whether it can be undermined by third parties. Each of these tests is designed to find the crack in your resolve, the place where you might be vulnerable enough to respond, the angle that might work where all the others have failed. Your job is to recognize these tests for what they are and to remain unmoved by them. Not because you are being cruel, but because responding to any of these tests sends the message that the boundary is not firm, that with the right approach, the avoidant can get through to you, that if they keep trying, they will eventually find the angle that works. The neurobiological reality of why they cannot stop. To understand why the avoidant cannot seem to accept your no and move forward, it is worth understanding what is happening in their nervous system when they encounter your consistent boundary. For years, possibly their entire life, the avoidant's nervous system has learned that persistence works. They push, people eventually give in. They withdraw, people eventually pursue. They refuse to engage, people eventually come back. Their nervous system is wired at a physiological level to expect that if they just persist long enough, they will get what they want. When you refuse to play by these rules, when you do not give in despite their persistence, when you maintain your boundary despite their withdrawal and return, your behavior is not matching what their nervous system has learned to expect. Their nervous system is essentially in a state of confusion and dysregulation. This dysregulation creates an intense drive to keep trying, keep testing, keep looking for the approach that will match their learned patterns and produce the expected result. Their nervous system is literally trying to restore homeostasis by recreating the dynamic it knows. Additionally, the avoidance nervous system has learned to use external connection with you as a form of regulation. Your presence helped their nervous system manage itself. Your absence creates dysregulation. The avoidant's continued attempts at reconnection are, at a physiological level, attempts to restore regulation through external connection. This is why the avoidant cannot easily let it go. Their nervous system is in genuine distress. They are not being stubborn or cruel or manipulative on a conscious level, though they may be doing these things. They are also having a genuine neurobiological experience of dysregulation that their mind interprets as a need to reconnect with you. Understanding this does not mean you should respond to their attempts or make reconnection easy. But it does help you understand why they are persisting, why they cannot seem to accept no, why they keep trying despite evidence that it is not working. They are not doing this primarily as a strategy. They are doing this because their nervous system is in a state of genuine distress and is using the only tools it has learned to use to try to restore itself. This understanding can allow you to hold compassion for what they are experiencing while still maintaining your boundary. You can recognize that they are genuinely struggling without making their struggle your responsibility to fix the specific thing that separates you from them. As this process unfolds, as you maintain your boundary and the avoidant continues to escalate their efforts, a specific thing becomes increasingly clear: the separation between you and them. The separation is not just that you are no longer in a relationship. The separation is in how you are each handling the ending. You are moving forward. You are healing, you are building a new life, you are developing clarity about what you need and what you will no longer accept. You are grieving, yes, but you are also growing. The avoidant is stuck. They are cycling through attempts at reconnection. They are becoming increasingly desperate, increasingly angry, increasingly transparent in their need for control. They are not moving forward. They are not healing, they are not building a new life. This separation is profound, and it will become more profound as time passes. You will move further and further into a new life while the avoidant remains stuck in attempts to resurrect an old one. This asymmetry is not something to feel guilty about. This asymmetry is simply the natural consequence of two different choices made by two different people. You chose to move forward. The avoidant chose to stay stuck in attempts at control. And the further you move forward, the more obvious this separation becomes. The clearer it is that reconnection is not going to happen. The more liberated you will feel from the possibility of ever having to go back. The specific transformation you are undergoing. While the avoidant is stuck in their attempts at reconnection, you are undergoing a profound transformation. And this transformation is worth acknowledging and celebrating because it is the foundation of everything that comes next. You are becoming someone who knows what she is worth. You are becoming someone who can recognize patterns and respond to them appropriately. You are becoming someone who can tolerate the discomfort of maintaining a boundary even when maintaining it costs you something. You are becoming someone who trusts her own judgment. After a relationship where you were constantly second-guessing yourself, doubting your perceptions, wondering if you were asking for too much, you are rebuilding trust in your own sight. You are learning to trust that what you saw in the avoidance patterns was real, that your need for presence was legitimate, that your decision to leave was wise. You are becoming someone who understands the difference between love and control. The avoidant's continued attempts at reconnection might look, to some people, like love. But you have learned to see them for what they are: attempts at control, attempts to reassert a dynamic, attempts to regain access to someone who has rightfully extracted themselves. You are becoming someone who can hold multiple truths at once. You can recognize that the avoidant is genuinely struggling, and also that their struggle is not your responsibility. You can wish them well and also maintain absolute clarity that reconnection is not going to happen. You can feel compassion for what they are experiencing and also feel profound relief that you are no longer part of their life. This transformation is not easy, but it is happening. And it is making you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable of building genuinely healthy relationships going forward. The specific ways your no protects them. Though the avoidant will not see it this way, your refusal to make reconnection easy actually protects them in important ways. Your no prevents them from reconstructing the same pattern. If you were to respond, to engage, to consider reconnection, the avoidant would have the opportunity to fall back into the familiar dynamic. They would have the opportunity to practice their old strategies on you, to refine their manipulation, to avoid doing the real work that actual change requires. Your no forces them to confront their own patterns. Because they cannot manipulate you into reconnection, they are forced to sit with the reality of what they did and what it cost. This confrontation is painful, but it is also necessary if they are ever going to change. Your no protects them from the harm of another failed relationship. If you were to reconnect, if you were to give them another chance, the pattern would almost certainly repeat. The avoidant would return to their old behavior. You would eventually leave again, and the cycle would continue, causing more harm to both of you. Your no creates space for them to potentially do the real work. Because reconnection is not possible, the avoidant's motivation for change cannot be to win you back. If they are going to change, it has to be for a different reason, because they have genuinely understood their patterns, because they want to be different for their own sake, because they have decided that the way they move through intimacy is causing them pain, and they want to change it. This last one is crucial. Change that happens in order to win someone back is not real change. It is performance. It is temporary. It will not last. Real change only happens when someone has decided to change for themselves, and your no creates the conditions for real change to possibly happen if the avoidant is capable of doing the work. So in a real way, your firmness, your refusal to make reconnection easy, your unwavering boundary, is actually an act of love toward the avoidant. Not because they will recognize it as such, but because it is the only thing that has any chance of actually helping them become different. The specific moment when your yes to yourself becomes clear. At a certain point, as you continue to refuse to make reconnection easy, as you maintain your boundary despite the avoidance escalation, a specific shift happens inside you. The shift is from being defined by what you're saying no to the avoidant, the relationship, reconnection, to being defined by what you're saying yes to yourself, your healing, your future. This shift is subtle but profound, because as long as you are primarily saying no, you're still organized around the avoidance attempts. Your energy is focused on resisting, on maintaining, on not giving in. But when you move into primarily saying yes to yourself, you are no longer organized around what you are rejecting. You are organized around what you are building. This shift changes everything, because now your energy is not spent maintaining a boundary against the avoidant. Your energy is spent investing in the new life you are building. Your energy is spent with people who genuinely care about you. Your energy is spent on projects and interests and pursuits that bring you joy. And from this place of yes, of building, of moving forward, the avoidance attempts at reconnection become increasingly irrelevant. You do not need to think about maintaining your boundary because you are too busy living your life. The boundary maintains itself because you are no longer tempted to cross it. You are too invested in what is in front of you to look back at what you have left behind. This is the transformation that actually frees you completely. Not just from the avoidant, but from the entire dynamic of the relationship. You are no longer the person being pursued and maintaining boundaries. You are simply the person living her life, fully present in the moment, not looking back. The specific danger of almost giving in. As the avoidance attempts at reconnection continue, as they escalate and then begin to shift in tone and strategy, there will be moments when you almost give in. Moments when their latest message lands in just the right way. Moments when you almost respond. Moments when you almost consider the possibility of reconciliation. These moments are dangerous not because giving in is inevitable, but because they are points of vulnerability. These are moments where your resolve can be tested and potentially broken. It is important to recognize these moments for what they are. They are tests, they are weak moments. They are points where your loneliness or doubt or the lingering feelings you have can be exploited by an avoidant who is actively looking for any crack in your boundary. When these moments come, the best thing you can do is remind yourself of the pattern. Remind yourself of the specific ways you were diminished in the relationship. Remind yourself of the countless times you asked for presence and were met with distance. Remind yourself of why you left. Do not make a decision to respond in these moments. Do not sit with the message and let yourself get worked up about what you might say. Do not engage with the possibility of reconnection as though it is something you should seriously consider. Instead, do what has worked so far. Do not respond. Let the moment pass. Go back to what you're building. Invest your energy elsewhere. The moment of almost giving in will pass, and the next time it comes, and there will likely be a next time, it will be a little bit easier to recognize and to move through. The specific reality that makes it easier. As time passes, as the avoidant continues to escalate and you continue to maintain your boundary, a specific reality becomes increasingly clear. Reconnection with this person was never actually a good idea. This reality makes maintaining your boundary easier. You start to remember the difficulty. You start to recall the patterns. You start to recognize the ways the avoidant treated you. You start to understand in your bones that going back would be a mistake. And from that place of knowing, not hoping, not wishing, but knowing, maintaining your boundary becomes less about willpower and more about wisdom. You are no longer maintaining a boundary against something you secretly want. You are maintaining a boundary against something you clearly understand would be harmful. This is when true freedom arrives. This is when you can look at the avoidance messages without feeling the pull. This is when you can see them reaching out without feeling tempted. This is when you can genuinely, without reservation, want to move forward without them. This reality, this knowing in your bones that reconnection would be a mistake, is the foundation of lasting freedom, the specific gift of watching them escalate. There is a strange gift in watching the avoidant escalate their tactics. Because as they escalate, as they become more transparent in their desperation, as they stop performing and start showing you exactly who they are when they do not get what they want, they are giving you information. They are showing you what they become under pressure. They are showing you what they will do when they do not have control. They are showing you their anger, their entitlement, their willingness to manipulate, their inability to respect your boundary. This information is valuable. This information confirms, definitively, that they were not right for you. This information makes it impossible to ever romanticize the relationship or wish you had stayed. So in a real sense, the avoidance escalation is actually working against them. Every time they escalate, they are providing more evidence that your decision to leave was correct. Every time they violate your boundary in an attempt to overcome it, they are proving that they were never capable of respecting you. This is the cruel irony of their desperation. In their effort to win you back, they are actually pushing you further away. In their effort to prove that they deserve another chance, they are actually proving that they do not. The specific work of true non-engagement. The work of truly not engaging with the avoidance attempts, of not responding, not explaining, not defending, not even thinking about what you might say, is profound work. It is work because there is a part of you that wants to respond. There is a part that wants to explain your position. There is a part that wants to defend yourself against their narrative. There is a part that wants to set the record straight. But this work, this discipline of non-engagement, is what actually creates the boundary that matters. Because any response, even an angry response, even a defensive response, is engagement. Any response sends the message that with the right approach they can get through to you. Any response is a crack in the wall that they can try to widen. True non-engagement means releasing all of this. It means not responding. It means not explaining. It means not defending. It means not even silently arguing with them in your head. This work is hard, but it is also what makes your boundary unbreakable. It is what makes it clear, beyond any doubt, that reconnection is not going to happen. And as the avoidant begins to understand that true non-engagement is happening, that there is no crack to widen, that there is no approach that will work, they eventually exhaust themselves. They run out of tactics, they run out of energy, they run out of hope, and that is when true freedom begins. The specific truth about what happens next. What happens next depends on what the avoidant chooses to do. They can accept the boundary and move forward. They can escalate further until they make an irreversible mistake that confirms reconnection should never happen. They can disappear. They can move on to someone new and recreate the pattern. But what happens with the avoidant is not your concern anymore. Your concern is what happens with you. And what happens with you is healing, growth, and a life built on your own terms. This is the specific truth that once you fully accept it, frees you completely. The absolute final understanding. The absolute final understanding is this: your refusal to make reconnection easy is not cruelty. It is wisdom, it is protection, it is love of yourself. The avoidant will interpret it as rejection, as punishment, as unfair. But the avoidant's interpretation does not change the truth of what you are actually doing. You are protecting yourself. You are honoring your own boundaries. You are refusing to participate in a dynamic that is harmful to you. You are prioritizing your own healing and growth. This is right, this is just, this is necessary. Hold this truth. Let it sustain you. Let it carry you forward into the life that is waiting for you on the other side of this ending. The avoidance attempts at reconnection will eventually stop. Whether it takes weeks or months or years, eventually the avoidant will either accept that reconnection is not going to happen or will move on to someone new. And when that happens, when the attempts finally stop, you will feel a profound relief. A relief that goes deeper than anything you have felt before. A relief that confirms, absolutely, that you made the right choice. Until that time, maintain your boundary. Do not engage, do not respond, do not explain, do not soften. Your refusal to make reconnection easy is the most powerful thing you can do, both for yourself and paradoxically for the avoidant. Trust it, believe it, live it. You are right, you will always be right, and you are finally completely free. The specific patterns in their escalation. As you observe the avoidant's attempts at reconnection, and you may well observe them if you are in contact with mutual friends or if their messages get through despite your efforts at boundary setting, you will notice specific patterns in how they escalate. Understanding these patterns helps you predict what might come next and prepare yourself emotionally. The first pattern is the increasing frequency of contact. Early on, the avoidant might reach out once a week or once every few weeks. As they realize their messages are not landing, they increase frequency. Soon they are reaching out multiple times a week, then multiple times a day, then throughout the day and night. This increase in frequency follows a logic. If one message does not work, perhaps two will. If two do not work, perhaps five will. Perhaps sheer volume will eventually wear you down or create a situation where you feel obligated to respond simply to make them stop. The second pattern is the increasing specificity and personalization of the messages. Early messages might be generic, "I've been thinking about you." Later messages become more specific. "I've been thinking about that time we went to place and how happy you seemed. I miss seeing you happy." This specificity serves a purpose. It is designed to trigger your emotions by reminding you of specific good moments you shared, specific ways the avoidant was present or attentive, specific details that suggest they were paying attention to you and valued your happiness. The third pattern is the shift in tone and content as strategies fail. When emotional manipulation does not work, the avoidant might shift toward guilt and blame. When that does not work, they might shift toward anger and resentment. When that does not work, they might shift toward apparent indifference. I'm fine, I've moved on, which is designed to make you worry that they actually have moved on and that reconnection will no longer be possible. The fourth pattern is the introduction of urgency. After some time of escalation, the avoidant might start adding elements of urgency. I need to talk to you. I am running out of time to say this. I just need 5 minutes. You owe me this much. This urgency is designed to make you feel that if you do not respond now, you will miss an important window. It is designed to create a sense that something critical is about to be lost or that a moment of opportunity is passing. The fifth pattern is the introduction of consequences or threats, either explicit or implied. The avoidant might suggest that if you do not respond, they will do something harmful. I don't know how I will survive this. I might hurt myself. I cannot keep going like this. These threats are designed to make you feel responsible for their well-being and to motivate you to respond out of fear for their safety. Recognizing these patterns helps you understand that what you are witnessing is not love or genuine remorse. What you are witnessing is a deliberate escalation of tactics designed to wear you down, manipulate you, and overcome your boundary. The specific moment when you realize they will never truly change. There comes a point where the evidence becomes so overwhelming, so clear, so undeniable, that you understand something you may have been hoping was not true. This person will probably never truly change. At least not for themselves, and certainly not in any time frame that would make reconnection desirable. This realization can come from watching how they respond to your consistent boundary. If they were capable of genuine change, if they truly understood what they did and truly regretted it, your boundary would be respected as a sign of your growth and wisdom. They would recognize that you are protecting yourself and would honor that, but instead, they continue to test it. They continue to escalate. They continue to look for angles and approaches. They continue to act as though your boundary is something to overcome rather than something to respect. This behavior is the opposite of change. This behavior is the opposite of understanding. This behavior is the same pattern that created the need for you to leave in the first place. The avoidant's inability to respect your autonomy, their compulsive need to control outcomes, their unwillingness to accept what they cannot have. And when you truly accept this, when you stop hoping that they will eventually get it, when you stop waiting for the moment when they understand what they did, when you stop believing that one more conversation will produce the realization that changes everything, that is when you are finally free, because you release the hope that was tethering you to them. You release the fantasy that things could be different. You release the story you were telling yourself about what might be possible if they would just finally understand. And in releasing these things, you become genuinely free to move forward. The specific role of your own unmet expectations. Part of what the avoidant is trying to do by continuing to reach out, by escalating their tactics, by refusing to accept your boundary, is to prove you wrong. They are trying to prove that you were wrong to leave, wrong to cut contact, wrong to believe that reconnection would not happen. If they can convince you to respond, if they can get you to re-engage, if they can recreate any version of the old dynamic, they will have proven that your decision was a mistake. They will have proven that your boundary was not real. They will have proven that they can still control the outcome. But you must understand, your boundary is not about proving them wrong. Your boundary is not about showing them that you can stick to something. Your boundary is not even fundamentally about them at all. Your boundary is about you protecting yourself. Your boundary is about you honoring your own needs. Your boundary is about you prioritizing your own healing and growth. The avoidant's desire to prove you wrong is a projection of their own need for control and their own inability to accept that they do not have control over the situation. But their desire to prove you wrong is not your problem to manage or respond to. You are free to let them believe they are right, that they could have convinced you, that if they had just found the right approach, you would have responded. You are free to let them construct whatever narrative allows them to maintain their self-image, because the truth, the only truth that matters, is that you know what is real. You know what actually happened in the relationship. You know why you left, you know that reconnection would be a mistake, and you do not need the avoidant to validate any of this. You do not need them to agree. You do not need them to understand. You simply need to know it yourself. The specific freedom that comes from acceptance. When you truly, deeply accept that reconnection is not going to happen, when you accept that the avoidance attempts will continue for a while longer but will eventually cease, when you accept that their eventual understanding or non-understanding of what they did is not your concern, that is when you experience a specific kind of freedom. This freedom is different from the freedom you felt on the day you left. That freedom was mixed with grief and uncertainty. This freedom is pure, it is uncomplicated, it is the freedom of someone who has made a decision and has fully accepted it. From this place of acceptance, you can think about the avoidant without being triggered. You can hear about them from mutual friends without feeling a jolt of anxiety or sadness or concern. You can even occasionally feel compassion for what they are going through without it shaking your resolve. This acceptance means you are no longer waiting, you are no longer hoping, you are no longer secretly checking to see if they have finally understood. You are no longer organizing your life around the possibility of reconnection. You are simply living, you are moving forward, you are building, and this living, this moving forward, this building, that is the evidence of your freedom more than anything else. The specific strength required to not respond. Do not underestimate the strength it requires to not respond to someone who is reaching out repeatedly, who is escalating their attempts, who is trying every tactic they can think of to get through to you. There is strength in responding, there is strength in engagement, but there is a different, perhaps deeper, kind of strength in not responding. Not responding when you want to, not responding when you have things you want to say, not responding when part of you wants to defend yourself or set the record straight. This strength builds with every message you receive and do not answer. This strength grows with every escalation you witness and do not react to. This strength solidifies with every moment you choose to focus on your own life instead of their attempts. You are building resilience, you are building capacity, you are building a version of yourself that is capable of maintaining firm boundaries even when maintaining those boundaries costs you something. This strength will serve you for the rest of your life. This is the strength that allows you to walk away from unhealthy situations, to say no to things that do not serve you, to prioritize your own well-being. Acknowledge this strength, celebrate it, let it remind you that you are capable of more than you thought you were capable of. The specific grief that still exists. As you move through this process, as you maintain your boundary and watch the avoidant escalate and begin to accept that reconnection is not going to happen, there is still grief present. This grief is not the same as the grief that pulled you toward reconsideration in the early days of the breakup. This grief is not about wishing you had stayed. This grief is not about wondering if you made the wrong decision. This grief is the grief of what the relationship was and what it could have been if things had been different. This grief is about the person you thought the avoidant might become, the relationship you hoped might be possible, the future you imagined before you understood the extent of the avoidant's inability to meet you. This grief is legitimate, this grief is valid, and this grief can coexist with your certainty that leaving was right. You can grieve the loss while being glad you left. You can miss aspects of what you had while knowing that what you had was not healthy. You can acknowledge the good moments while accepting that they were not enough to make the relationship work. This is mature grief. This is grief that does not pull you backward but instead helps you integrate the experience and move forward. Allow this grief, sit with it when it arises, let it move through you, and then let it go, knowing that you are grieving a fantasy, not a reality. The specific truth about their transformation claims. At some point during their attempts at reconnection, the avoidant will likely claim, or at least suggest, that they have changed. They might point to therapy they are in, meditation they are practicing, books they are reading, new perspectives they have developed. You should not believe these claims. Or more precisely, you should recognize that even if these claims are true, they do not matter. Because real change, deep, fundamental change in how someone approaches intimacy and relationships takes years. It takes consistent work over an extended period. It takes therapy that produces actual shifts in how someone responds to vulnerability and closeness. It takes time for new neural pathways to establish themselves and become stronger than old ones. The avoidant does not have years. The avoidant has weeks or months before the acute crisis of losing you begins to fade and they move into a new distraction or a new relationship. So even if the avoidant is genuinely in therapy, even if they are genuinely reflecting, even if they are genuinely trying to understand their patterns, that understanding, that reflection, that therapy is not producing the kind of deep change that would make reconnection desirable. And more importantly, reconnection should not require you to wait for them to change. You should not have to delay your own life, your own healing, your own future, waiting to see if they eventually become capable of giving you what you need. So when the avoidant claims transformation, when they point to evidence of change, when they suggest that maybe now things could be different, recognize this for what it is. It is another tactic. It is another attempt to create hope that reconnection is possible. It is another attempt to wear down your boundary by suggesting that maybe they have done the work, maybe they have changed, maybe it could work this time. Do not believe it. Do not even consider it. Recognize it as manipulation, wish them well on their journey of growth, and keep moving forward with your own life. The specific moment when you stop tracking them. At a certain point, you will realize that you have not thought about the avoidant in several days. You will not have checked mutual friends' social media to see if anyone has mentioned them. You will not have wondered how they are doing or whether they have moved on or whether they are still trying. And you will realize in that moment that you have genuinely stopped tracking them. They are no longer a presence in your mind, a constant awareness in your periphery, a reference point against which you measure your progress. This moment is profound. This is the moment when you know, beyond any doubt, that you are healed. Because as long as you are tracking them, as long as you are checking on them, as long as you are wondering about them, some part of you is still tethered to them. Some part of you is still organized around them. But when you stop tracking, when you genuinely forget to check, when weeks pass and you do not think about them at all, that is when you know you are free. This freedom is the destination you have been working toward. This freedom is what all the boundary work, all the non-engagement, all the resistance to reaching out has been building toward. Celebrate this moment when it comes. You have earned it. You have built it through consistent, patient, difficult work. The specific understanding that will sustain you forever. As you move forward from this experience, as you integrate the lessons and build a new life, there is one understanding that will sustain you forever. The understanding is this: you are capable of recognizing patterns, making difficult decisions, and following through on those decisions even when following through is hard. You have proven this to yourself. You cannot unprove it. This understanding will serve you in every future relationship you have. When you see patterns beginning to form, when you recognize something is not working, you will know that you have the capacity to address it. You will not stay indefinitely hoping things will change. You will not accept less than you deserve. This understanding will serve you in your friendships, your work, your entire life, because you have learned through this difficult experience that you are strong enough to do hard things. You are brave enough to leave situations that are not working. You are wise enough to recognize what is actually happening underneath the surface. This understanding is your legacy from this relationship. This understanding is what you take forward. The avoidance attempts at reconnection, the pain of the breakup, the difficulty of maintaining your boundary, all of that led to this understanding. All of that led to the version of yourself that you are becoming. And that version is worth it. That version is the person who will build a genuinely healthy life. That version is the person who will attract people capable of meeting you. That version is the person who is finally, completely, truly free. The absolute final truth. The absolute final truth is this: your refusal to make reconnection easy is the most loving thing you can do, not for the avoidant, for yourself. You are protecting your own future. You are defending your own healing. You are honoring your own worth, and no matter what the avoidant does, no matter how much they escalate, no matter what tactics they try, your refusal remains right. Your boundary remains valid. Your decision remains wise. Hold this truth, carry this truth, live this truth. You are free, you are healing, you are becoming. That is all that matters. That is all that will ever need to matter. The avoidance attempts will eventually stop. Until then, remain unmoved, remain firm, remain certain. You made the right decision. You are right now. You will always be right. This is the truth that will carry you forward into the life that is waiting for you, the life that is genuinely, completely, entirely yours. Trust it, believe it, live it. You deserve nothing less than everything, and you are finally building a life that reflects this truth, the specific realization that changes everything. At some point in this process, a specific realization will land for you with absolute clarity. The realization is this: the avoidant does not actually want you back. What the avoidant wants is the version of the relationship where you were available, where you managed their emotions, where you accepted their distance and showed up anyway, where they had control over whether the relationship continued. The avoidant wants the situation to go back to the way it was before you left. They want you to be the person who was waiting for them, who was hoping things would change, who was shrinking yourself to make room for their emotional unavailability. The avoidant does not want to build something new with you. The avoidant does not want a genuinely intimate, reciprocal relationship. The avoidant wants you to return to the role you played before, the loyal, patient, ever-available person they could rely on to absorb their emotional distance and absence without complaint. This realization is clarifying because it means that reconnection is not actually something you should want. Reconnection would not mean a fresh start. Reconnection would mean a return to the pattern. And you have already escaped that pattern. Knowing this, understanding this, fully accepting this, that is when maintaining your boundary becomes effortless, because you are not denying yourself something you actually want. You are protecting yourself from something that would harm you. The specific transformation of your self-image. As you move through this process of refusing to make reconnection easy, of watching the avoidant escalate in panic and eventually begin to accept that reconnection is not going to happen, something profound happens to how you see yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone capable, someone strong, someone wise. Someone worthy of respect, including your own respect. For years, possibly, you saw yourself as the person who was not enough, the person who asked for too much, the person whose needs were excessive, the person who was not enough to make the avoidant capable of presence and commitment. But as you maintain your boundary, as you refuse to be manipulated, as you move forward into a new life, you begin to see yourself differently. You begin to see yourself as someone who recognized a problem and addressed it, someone who made a difficult decision and followed through on it, someone who could choose herself even when choosing herself meant significant loss and grief. This new self-image is the foundation of everything that comes next, because from this place of knowing your own worth, knowing your own capability, knowing your own wisdom, you will build better relationships. You will attract people who respect you. You will create a life that honors your own needs. This transformation of self-image is one of the greatest gifts of leaving an unhealthy relationship. And it is a gift that the avoidant's continued attempts at manipulation cannot diminish, because you are building this self-image through the act of refusing them, through the act of maintaining your boundary, through the act of choosing yourself again and again. The specific mercy in your refusal. Though it may not seem like it, your refusal to make reconnection easy is actually an act of mercy toward the avoidant, and eventually, if they do the work, they might come to understand this. Your refusal prevents them from settling. If you made reconnection easy, the avoidant might take you back, might feel temporarily relieved, might believe they had solved the problem of your absence, but they would eventually slip back into old patterns. They would eventually recreate the same dynamic, and you would eventually leave again. This cycle could repeat many times, causing increasing damage with each iteration. Your refusal to make reconnection easy prevents this cyclical damage. Your refusal also forces them to confront their own patterns. If reconnection were easy, the avoidant would never have to look at what they did or how their behavior affected you. They could maintain the narrative that you were the problem, that your expectations were unrealistic, that they were the victim of your demands. But because reconnection is not easy, because you will not respond, because you will not engage, the avoidant is forced to sit with their own behavior and its consequences. This is uncomfortable, but it is also necessary for any genuine growth. Your refusal also protects them from themselves. The avoidant likely would not handle another failed relationship well. Your willingness to make reconnection impossible prevents them from entering into a relationship that would ultimately fail again, causing more damage and more pain. So in a strange way, by refusing to make reconnection easy, by maintaining your firm boundary, by not engaging with their attempts at manipulation, you are doing them a favor. You are creating the only conditions under which genuine change is possible. This is a mercy, even if they do not recognize it as such, the specific reality of what you are building. While the avoidant is stuck in attempts at reconnection, stuck trying to recreate what was lost, stuck unable to move forward, you are building something new, something better, something that is genuinely yours. You are building a life where your needs matter. You are building relationships where reciprocity is expected and normal. You are building a daily reality that does not require you to manage anyone's emotions or monitor anyone's mood or anticipate anyone's withdrawal. You are building freedom. Freedom from manipulation, freedom from control, freedom from the constant anxiety of not knowing whether you are doing enough or being enough or trying hard enough. You are building authenticity. You are rebuilding the parts of yourself that were diminished. You are recovering your sense of humor, your ambitions, your interests, your joy in simple things. You are building confidence. With every day that you choose not to respond, with every moment you maintain your boundary, with every time you resist the urge to go back, you are building confidence in your own judgment, your own capability, your own wisdom. This building is happening every single day. It is happening in ways you might not immediately notice, but it is happening. And it is creating the foundation for a life that is so much better than anything the past could have offered. The avoidant is stuck looking backward. You are moving forward. This difference is everything. The specific compassion you can hold. As you move through this process, it is possible to hold compassion for what the avoidant is experiencing without letting that compassion pull you backward into reconnection. You can understand that the avoidant is suffering. You can recognize that their panic is genuine. You can acknowledge that your absence is painful for them. But you can hold all of this while also knowing that their suffering is not your responsibility. Their panic is not something you are obligated to soothe. Their pain is not something you are required to fix. This is mature compassion. This is compassion that does not require self-sacrifice. This is compassion that honors both your own needs and the avoidance experience. From this place of mature compassion, you can wish them well. You can hope that they eventually do the work and become capable of healthier relationships. You can even, if the opportunity ever arises, tell them that you hope they grow and heal. But you can hold all of this while maintaining absolute clarity. Reconnection is not going to happen, and you never want it to happen, and their attempts to make it happen will not change this. This combination, compassion and firmness, kindness and boundaries, hope for their growth and refusal to participate in their attempts, is what mature, healthy relating looks like. And it is the relationship you are now building with yourself as well as others, the specific moment of true liberation. There is a specific moment that you will experience, maybe weeks from now, maybe months, when you will feel a profound sense of liberation. This moment might come when you are doing something completely unrelated to the avoidant. You might be out with friends or working on a project or simply existing in your own life, and suddenly you will realize you are not thinking about them. You are not wondering how they are doing. You are not tracking whether they have reached out or moved on. You are simply living, and in that moment of realization, you will feel a weight lift. A weight you did not fully realize you were carrying. The weight of monitoring them, tracking them, wondering about them, organizing your thoughts around them. This weight lifts because you have truly, finally, accepted that reconnection is not going to happen. You have genuinely moved past the point of being tempted. You have built a life so rich, so full, so present that the avoidant barely registers. This moment of liberation is the payoff for all the difficult work. This is what all the boundary maintenance, all the non-engagement, all the resistance has been building toward. Celebrate this moment when it comes. You have earned it. You have built it through consistent, patient, difficult work over time. And once you have experienced this liberation, it will never leave you. You will have concrete evidence, written in your own experience, that you are capable of moving past this, of building something better, of claiming your freedom. This evidence will sustain you through any remaining difficult moments. This evidence will remind you that your decision was right. This evidence will carry you forward into everything that comes next, the specific truth you will carry forever. There is a truth that you will carry with you forever after this experience. The truth is this: you know what you are capable of. You know that you can recognize unhealthy patterns. You know that you can make difficult decisions. You know that you can follow through on those decisions even when they are hard. This knowledge changes how you move through the world. You will never again stay in a situation as long as you would have before this experience. You will never again accept as little as you accepted from the avoidant. You will never again shrink yourself as much as you shrunk yourself in that relationship. You have been forged by this experience. You have been tested and have proven yourself. You have walked through fire and come out the other side. This is not something the avoidant can take from you. This is not something reconnection could diminish. This is something that belongs entirely to you, that you have earned through the difficulty of this process. And it is the greatest gift this terrible relationship could have given you. It is the foundation of everything better that comes next, the final message. The final message is this: you are right to refuse to make reconnection easy. You are wise to maintain your boundary. You are strong to resist the urge to respond when responding would only prolong the pain. And you can trust with absolute certainty that you are building something better, that you are becoming someone stronger, that you are moving toward a life that is genuinely, completely, entirely yours. The avoidant will eventually stop reaching out. The attempts will eventually cease. The panic will eventually subside into acceptance or into a new relationship or into whatever the avoidant uses to manage their own dysregulation. But before that happens, before the attempts finally stop, keep doing what you have been doing. Keep not responding. Keep maintaining your boundary. Keep moving forward with your own life. Your refusal to make reconnection easy is the most powerful and loving thing you can do. Not for the avoidant, but for yourself. And that is all that matters. That is all that will ever need to matter. You are free. You are healing. You are becoming. This is your truth. Hold it close. Carry it forward. The life that is waiting for you is so much better than anything the past could have offered. Trust that completely. Believe it entirely. Live it fully. You have earned this freedom through the difficulty of this process. Now claim it. Use it. Build the life you deserve. The avoidance attempts are irrelevant. Your future is everything. Move toward it without hesitation. You are right. You will always be right. This is the final truth that will sustain you forever. The specific impact on your future relationships. Everything you are learning through this experience, how to recognize patterns, how to maintain boundaries, how to choose yourself, how to refuse to be manipulated, all of this will serve you in every future relationship you have. Future partners will benefit from the lessons you are learning right now. They will experience a version of you that knows what she is worth, that will not settle for less, that can recognize red flags early and respond appropriately. They will experience someone who is capable of genuine intimacy precisely because she is not desperate for it, not willing to accept crumbs, not willing to shrink herself. This is what healthy relationships require, people who know what they are worth and will not accept less. This is what you are becoming through your refusal to make reconnection easy. So in a very real sense, the avoidant is inadvertently teaching you how to build something healthy. By refusing to respect your boundary, by escalating their manipulation, by showing you exactly what happens when someone does not respect your autonomy, the avoidant is providing the clearest possible evidence of what not to accept. You will carry this evidence forward. You will recognize it in future situations. You will know without question whether someone is capable of respecting you or whether you need to walk away. This is the gift of this painful experience. This is what you are building that will serve you forever. The specific wisdom that comes from acceptance. The wisdom of accepting that reconnection is not going to happen is a wisdom that extends far beyond this one relationship. It is the wisdom of accepting that you cannot control other people. It is the wisdom of accepting that you cannot make someone be the person you need them to be. It is the wisdom of accepting that sometimes, despite our best efforts, things do not work out. This acceptance does not mean passivity. This acceptance does not mean not trying. This acceptance means trying your best and then having the wisdom to know when to let go, to move on, to redirect your energy toward things you can actually change and build. This wisdom will serve you in every area of your life, in work, in friendships, in creative pursuits, in every significant endeavor. You will know when to push and when to let go. You will know when effort might produce results and when effort is simply wasted energy. This discernment, this wisdom, this knowing, it is built through experiences exactly like this one. It is built through the difficulty of choosing yourself when choosing yourself means loss. And once you have it, once you truly possess this wisdom, it cannot be taken from you. It becomes part of how you move through the world, the specific cruelty of hoping they will change. One of the most insidious things you could do to yourself at this point is to hope that the avoidant will eventually change and that when they have changed enough, reconnection will be possible. This hope is a trap. This hope will keep you tethered to them even though you have physically separated. Because as long as you are hoping they will change, as long as you are waiting for evidence of transformation, as long as you are secretly wondering whether reconnection might be possible someday, you are not free. You are still in some way organized around the avoidant. You are still making your future contingent on their growth. This is the cruelest thing you can do to yourself. Do not do it. Release the hope, accept that whether or not they change is entirely up to them and has nothing to do with you or your future. This does not mean wishing them harm. This does not mean hoping they never grow. This simply means releasing any investment in whether they grow or not, releasing any fantasy that reconnection might eventually be possible, releasing any hope that leads to continued tethering to them. When you release this hope, when you accept that reconnection is not going to happen whether they change or not, that is when you are finally free, because freedom is not just physical separation. Freedom is emotional and mental separation. Freedom is releasing the hope that pulls you back. Freedom is accepting that what happened is finished, that this person is no longer part of your future, that their growth or lack thereof has nothing to do with you. This acceptance, this release of hope, is not something you need to do all at once. But as you move through this process, as you refuse to make reconnection easy, as you watch the avoidant escalate and panic, you will gradually, naturally begin to release this hope. And that release is what will free you completely, the specific strength in your refusal. Your refusal to make reconnection easy might be the strongest, most powerful thing you have ever done. Not because it requires a particular kind of willpower or discipline, though it does, but because it requires you to believe in something you have been trained not to believe in, your own worth. For years, possibly, you were trained by the avoidant to doubt your own worth. Your needs were framed as excessive. Your desires for presence were framed as neediness. Your requirements for basic respect and reciprocal investment were framed as impossible standards, and you believed it. You internalized the message that you were asking for too much, that your needs were unreasonable, that you were the problem. But by refusing to make reconnection easy, by maintaining your boundary despite their escalation, by not responding to their messages despite their increasing desperation, you're sending yourself a message: I am worth respecting. My needs matter, I am not asking for too much, and I will not accept less than what I deserve. This message sent to yourself through your actions is the strongest, most powerful message you can send, because it cannot be debated or argued or explained away. It is written in your behavior. It is proven through your actions. And as you continue to act on this belief, as you continue to demonstrate to yourself that you will not be manipulated back into an unhealthy situation, you will believe it more and more deeply. Your worth will cease to be something you are trying to convince yourself of. Your worth will become something you simply know in your bones to be true. And that knowing is the foundation of everything that comes next, the absolute certainty that frees you. Finally, there is a specific kind of absolute certainty that, once you reach it, frees you completely. This certainty is not something you think or analyze. This certainty is something you know at a cellular level to be true. The certainty is this: reconnection with the avoidant would be a mistake, not possibly, not maybe, not if they change enough and demonstrate enough growth, but absolutely, certainly, without any doubt, reconnection would be a mistake. This certainty cannot coexist with temptation. This certainty cannot coexist with lingering hope. This certainty cannot coexist with wondering whether you made the wrong decision. So reaching this certainty requires releasing all of that. It requires giving up the fantasy. It requires accepting that reconnection is not going to happen and that you never want it to happen. And once you have this certainty, you are free, because you are no longer saying no to something you want. You are simply protecting yourself from something harmful. You are simply choosing yourself. You are simply moving forward into a life that does not include them. This certainty will sustain you through any remaining difficult moments. This certainty will remind you why you left. This certainty will carry you forward into the life that is waiting for you, and you will reach this certainty. You will build it through the day-by-day work of maintaining your boundary, through the accumulated evidence of your own wisdom and strength, through the gradual recognition that you made the right decision and that you remain right. This certainty is coming. Wait for it. Trust it. When it arrives, claim it completely. It will be the most powerful, most liberating thing you have ever experienced. The specific vision of your future. As you move through this process, as you refuse to make reconnection easy, as you maintain your boundary and watch the avoidant eventually begin to accept that reconnection is not going to happen, there is a specific vision of your future that should sustain you. In this future, the avoidant is a dim memory. Someone you were with who taught you important lessons, who showed you what you do not want, but who is no longer part of your daily thoughts or concerns. In this future, you are with someone who shows up, someone who is present, someone who values your presence as much as you value theirs. Someone who sees your need for intimacy not as neediness but as a beautiful capacity to connect deeply with another person. In this future, you are someone who trusts her own judgment. You recognize red flags quickly. You address problems when they are small rather than waiting until they are catastrophic. You know what you are worth and you will not accept less. In this future, you are doing work that brings you joy. You are spending time with people who genuinely care about you. You are pursuing interests and hobbies that bring you alive. You are living for yourself, not for someone else's validation or approval. This future is not a fantasy. This future is possible. This future is what your refusal to make reconnection easy is building. So on the days when maintaining your boundary is hard, on the days when you almost respond to a message, on the days when you doubt your decision, return to this vision of your future. Let this vision sustain you. Let this vision remind you why you are doing this difficult work. Because all of this difficulty, all of this refusal, all of this pain is building toward something genuinely good. It is building toward a life that is authentically yours, the final, absolute truth. The final, absolute truth is this: your refusal to make reconnection easy is right, it is wise, it is necessary, it is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. The avoidant will not understand this. The avoidant will interpret your boundary as cruelty, as punishment, as unfair. The avoidant may hold resentment toward you for the rest of their life, but none of that matters. None of that changes the fundamental truth of what you are doing. You are protecting yourself. You are honoring your own worth. You are building a future that belongs entirely to you. And that is all that matters. That is all that will ever need to matter. So hold this truth. Carry this truth. Live this truth with absolute certainty. The avoidant will eventually stop trying. Until then, remain firm, remain unmoved, remain certain. You are right. You will always be right, and you are finally, completely, truly free. This is the truth that will carry you forward into everything that comes next. Hold it close, trust it completely, live it fully. Your future is waiting. Your life is waiting, your freedom is waiting, and it all begins the moment you stop making reconnection easy. That moment has arrived. Now step fully into the freedom that is rightfully yours, the specific understanding of control. At the heart of the avoidant's inability to accept your no is a fundamental misunderstanding about control. The avoidant has lived their entire life operating from the belief that with the right strategy, with the right approach, with the right amount of patience and manipulation, they can control most outcomes. And they have been right in most cases. With most people, with most situations, their strategies have worked. They have learned that distance works. They have learned that withdrawal works. They have learned that making themselves seem vulnerable in carefully controlled ways works, but you are not most people, and your boundary is not something that can be overcome with their usual strategies. This is fundamentally destabilizing to them, because if their strategies do not work with you, if their time-tested approaches fail, what does that say about their understanding of the world? What does that say about their ability to navigate relationships? The avoidant is forced to confront the possibility that they are not as in control as they thought they were. They are forced to confront the possibility that other people are not as manageable as they believed. They are forced to sit with the uncomfortable reality that there are outcomes they cannot control. This confrontation, while it is painful for them, is actually necessary, because real intimacy requires releasing the need for control. Real intimacy requires trusting that the other person will stay, not because you have manipulated them into staying, but because they choose to stay. The avoidant will likely never reach this understanding. But your refusal to be controlled, your refusal to let them manage you, your refusal to play by their rules, is creating the conditions where this understanding might become possible. The specific peace that comes from surrender. There is a paradoxical peace that comes from surrendering the idea that you can make the avoidant understand. From surrendering the idea that if you just explain yourself clearly enough, they will get it. From surrendering the idea that there is some magic combination of words or actions that will make them see what they did and why you left. This surrender is not giving up. This surrender is releasing something you cannot control and accepting that reality. Once you have made this surrender, once you have released the idea that you can make them understand, a profound peace descends, because you are no longer responsible for their understanding. You are no longer invested in whether they get it. You are no longer trying to convince them or explain to them or make them see your side. You are simply living your life. You are simply moving forward. And that is enough. This peace is available to you. It is waiting on the other side of the surrender, and it will sustain you through whatever comes next. The specific moment when you stop needing closure. Closure is a word that gets thrown around a lot in breakup contexts. People talk about needing closure, about needing the other person to acknowledge what happened, about needing an explanation or an apology to move forward. But the truth is that closure is not something someone else can give you. Closure is something you give yourself. And you create closure through accepting what happened, understanding why it happened, learning what it taught you, and moving forward based on those learnings. You do not need the avoidant to acknowledge what they did. You do not need them to apologize. You do not need them to agree with your version of events or to validate your experience. What you need is to accept that what happened was real, that you responded appropriately, that you made the right decision. And you create this closure through your actions. Every time you do not respond, you are creating closure. Every time you maintain your boundary, you are creating closure. Every time you move forward with your life without them, you are creating closure. So closure is not something you are waiting for. Closure is something you are actively building through how you choose to respond to their attempts at reconnection. And once you understand this, once you stop waiting for closure and start creating it, you will realize how much power you actually have. You are not stuck waiting for them. You are actively creating the ending you need. The specific truth about what matters. As you move through this process, it is worth stepping back and remembering what actually matters. What matters is not whether the avoidant eventually understands what they did. What matters is that you understand what happened and what you learned from it. What matters is not whether the avoidant eventually changes. What matters is that you are changing, growing, becoming someone stronger and wiser. What matters is not whether the avoidant regrets losing you. What matters is that you know you made the right decision and that you are moving forward with your life. What matters is not what the avoidant thinks of you or thinks about the relationship or constructs as their narrative. What matters is what you know to be true. When you understand this, when you truly accept what matters and what does not, everything becomes simpler. You are no longer trying to control outcomes on their end. You are no longer trying to convince them or change their mind or get them to understand. You are simply focused on what matters, your own healing, your own growth, your own future. And from this focus, from this clarity about what matters, you are free. The specific reminder you need in difficult moments. In the difficult moments that will come, when maintaining your boundary is hardest, when the pull to respond is strongest, when you wonder if you are being too harsh or too unforgiving, remember this. You are not being cruel, you are protecting yourself. Responding to them, engaging with them, giving them hope that reconnection might be possible, that would be cruel. That would be cruel to you because it would prolong your healing. That would be cruel to them because it would give them false hope. Your refusal to respond is the kindest thing you can do. It is kind to yourself, and paradoxically it is kind to them as well, because it is the only response that has any chance of actually helping them understand the permanence of this ending. So when the difficult moment comes, when maintaining the boundary feels like cruelty, remember this truth. You are not being cruel. You are being wise. You are being kind. You are protecting the most important person in your life, yourself, the specific future you are guaranteed. You are not guaranteed that the avoidant will change. You are not guaranteed that they will ever understand what they did or why you left. You are not guaranteed that they will eventually accept your boundary and move on, but you are guaranteed something else. You are guaranteed that every day you maintain this boundary, you are building a different future for yourself. You are guaranteed that the person you are becoming through this process is stronger, wiser, more capable than the person you were when you were in the relationship. You are guaranteed that this difficulty, this refusal to make reconnection easy, this maintenance of your boundary despite the cost, that all of this is building something genuinely good in your life. You are guaranteed that at some point in the future, you will look back on this time and see it as the moment when everything changed, the moment when you chose yourself, the moment when you began to heal. You are guaranteed that because of the choice you are making now, your future will be better. This guarantee is not dependent on what the avoidant does or does not do. This guarantee is based on your own actions, your own commitment to maintaining your boundary, your own refusal to participate in a dynamic that would harm you. And because this guarantee is based on you, not on them, it is reliable, it is solid, it is something you can trust, so trust it, believe in it, let it carry you forward, the absolute final word. The absolute final word is this: you are doing the right thing, you know this, trust this knowledge completely. The avoidant will reach out, they will escalate, they will try new tactics. They will test your boundary in ways you have not anticipated, but your response remains the same. You do not respond, you do not engage, you do not make reconnection easy. And through this refusal, through this consistency, through this unwavering commitment to your own well-being, you are building a life that is genuinely yours. This is not easy, but it is right, and that is all that matters. So hold firm, stay the course, trust yourself completely. Your future is waiting, and it is so much better than anything the past could have offered. Move toward it. You are ready, you are worthy, you are free. This is the truth that will carry you through everything that comes next. Hold it close, live it fully, believe it completely. You have chosen yourself. Now claim the freedom that choice has given you. You are right, you will always be right. This is the final truth, trust it forever. The specific gift of witnessing their desperation. If you witness any part of the avoidance desperation, their escalating attempts, their increasingly transparent manipulation, their panic as they realize reconnection is not going to happen, recognize this as a gift. This gift is evidence, evidence that your presence mattered, evidence that your absence is felt, evidence that the relationship was important, even though they rarely showed it while you were together. This gift is clarifying. It shows you that reconnection was never about genuine love or connection. It was about comfort, about control, about having access to your emotional labor. Because if it had been about genuine love, their response to your boundary would be different. They would respect it, they would accept it, they would eventually let you go. This gift is validating. For years, possibly, you may have questioned whether you mattered enough, whether the relationship was actually as significant as you thought, whether your pain was justified. The avoidance desperation at losing you answers these questions. You mattered, the relationship was significant, your pain was justified. So if you do witness their desperation, if you do see evidence of their panic and escalation, let that evidence anchor you. Let it confirm what you already know. Let it strengthen your resolve to remain unmoved. The specific moment when the cycle truly ends. There is a specific moment when the cycle truly ends. It is not when the avoidant sends their last message. It is not when they finally accept that reconnection is not going to happen. It is not even necessarily when you stop thinking about them. The cycle truly ends when you realize that whether or not they understand, whether or not they change, whether or not they ever admit what they did, none of it matters to you anymore. This moment might come suddenly or it might come gradually. But when it arrives, you will know, because your entire relationship to the situation will have shifted. You will no longer be waiting for their understanding. You will no longer be monitoring their behavior. You will no longer be secretly hoping that one day they will finally get it. You will simply be living, and they will be a footnote in your story, not the central character. This is the moment of true freedom. This is what all the boundary work, all the refusal to respond, all the difficult maintenance of your position has been building toward. And it is worth every moment of difficulty, the specific accountability you owe. As you move through this process, as you maintain your boundary despite the avoidance escalation, there is one person you owe accountability to: yourself. You owe yourself accountability for honoring your boundary. You owe yourself accountability for not slipping back into old patterns. You owe yourself accountability for moving forward into the life you are building. This accountability is not about proving anything to anyone else. This accountability is about integrity with yourself. It is about doing what you said you would do. It is about following through on the promise you made to yourself to move forward. When you maintain this accountability, when you honor your commitment to yourself, you are building something profound. You are building trust in yourself. You are proving to yourself that you are someone who can be trusted to follow through, to maintain boundaries, to do the difficult thing. This trust in yourself is the foundation of everything that comes next, and it comes from this accountability you hold yourself to. So as you move forward, hold yourself accountable. Not harshly, not judgmentally, but with the same firmness you hold your boundary. Follow through on what you said you would do. Honor your commitment to yourself. And in doing so, you will build a relationship with yourself that no one can take away from you. The specific reminder about your worth. In the hardest moments when maintaining your boundary feels impossible, remember this. You are not refusing to make reconnection easy because you are being difficult. You are refusing to make reconnection easy because you have recognized your own worth. Someone who knows what she is worth does not respond to manipulation. Someone who has recognized her own value does not need someone who could never fully appreciate that value. Your refusal to make reconnection easy is not a punishment or an act of spite. Your refusal is an act of love toward yourself, a declaration that you deserve better, a statement that your well-being matters more than the avoidance comfort. This is what true self-love looks like, not in the performative, Instagram-worthy version, but in the real, difficult, unglamorous version, doing the thing that is right even when it is hard, maintaining your boundary even when you want to soften, choosing yourself even when choosing yourself costs something. This is the version of self-love that actually builds a better life. So remember, on the days when it is hardest, you are not being cruel, you are honoring your own worth. And that is everything, the specific life that is waiting. On the other side of this process, on the other side of the avoidance, escalated attempts, and eventual acceptance, there is a specific life waiting for you. It is a life where you wake up and do not immediately think about the avoidant. It is a life where you are no longer organizing yourself around what they might do next. It is a life where you are simply living, fully present in your own existence. It is a life where the people around you are people who show up, where your needs matter, where presence is the baseline, not the exception, where intimacy is reciprocal and genuine. It is a life where you trust yourself, where you recognize your own wisdom, where you honor your own instincts, where you know beyond any doubt that you can recognize patterns and respond to them appropriately. It is a life where you are free, free from manipulation, free from control, free from the constant anxiety of trying to be enough for someone who could not meet you. This life is not a fantasy. This life is possible. This life is what your refusal to make reconnection easy is building. And it is closer than you think, so keep going, stay the course, trust the process. Your life is waiting for you, step into it, you deserve it completely. The specific understanding that completes your healing. As you reach the later stages of this process, as you have maintained your boundary for weeks or months, as you have watched the avoidant escalate and begin to accept that reconnection is not going to happen, there is a specific understanding that completes your healing. The understanding is this: the avoidance behavior, their continued attempts at reconnection, their escalation and desperation, their inability to accept no, none of it is actually about you. All of it is about them. All of it is about their fear, their panic, their inability to accept what they cannot control. You were never the problem. Your needs were never excessive. Your boundary is not cruel. The avoidance interpretation of your refusal is simply their own fear speaking, their own panic attempting to make sense of a situation they cannot manage. And once you truly understand this, once you separate their experience from your responsibility, you are free, because their experience becomes completely irrelevant to your choices. Their panic cannot influence you. Their interpretation of your boundary cannot shake your certainty. You are free to move forward, knowing that whatever they are experiencing is entirely their own to work through. You are free to build your life without carrying the weight of their emotions, their interpretations, their narratives. This understanding is the capstone on your healing. This understanding is what allows you to look back on the entire process, from the initial decision to leave, through the maintenance of your boundary, through the witnessing of their escalation, and see it all as the correct response to an untenable situation. You handled it right, every step, every refusal, every moment of maintaining your boundary despite the cost. You were right then. You remain right now, you will always be right. This is the understanding that frees you completely, the absolute final closure. There is one final thing you need to know. One final truth that brings complete closure to this entire process. You do not need to be perfect at maintaining your boundary. You do not need to respond with zero ambivalence or doubt. You do not need to be unmoved by their attempts or immune to guilt or sadness about what was lost. What you need to do is maintain your boundary despite all of these things. You need to feel the sadness and not respond. You need to feel the doubt and not engage. You need to feel the guilt and not soften. This is the real work, not being perfect, but being committed despite imperfection. And this is what you have been doing. Every single day you have maintained your boundary, despite doubt, despite sadness, despite the pull to respond. You have been doing the real work, so give yourself credit for this. Acknowledge the difficulty of what you have been doing. Recognize the strength it has required. You have earned your freedom. You have built it brick by brick through the difficult, unglamorous work of saying no when saying no is hard. Now claim this freedom completely. Live it fully. Trust it absolutely. The avoidance attempts will eventually cease. Until then, keep doing what you have been doing. Keep not responding. Keep moving forward. Keep building your life, and know with absolute certainty that you are right. You will always be right. This is the final closure. This is the truth that brings complete peace. You are free. You have earned it. Now claim it and never look back. The specific truth for every difficult moment. Every time you face a difficult moment going forward, every time the pull to respond becomes strong, every time you question your decision, return to this single, undeniable truth. Reconnection would be a mistake, not possibly, not maybe, not if they change enough, but absolutely, certainly, without qualification, reconnection would be a mistake. This truth is your anchor. This truth is what holds you firm when everything else is pulling you toward engagement, toward response, toward reconsideration. And you know this truth because you lived through the relationship. You know what it was like, you know what it cost you, you know how small it made you, you know how much of yourself you had to sacrifice to make it tolerable. And you know with absolute certainty that you never want to return to that, so hold this truth. Return to it whenever you need to. Let it guide every decision you make about whether to respond, whether to engage, whether to reconsider. Reconnection would be a mistake. This is your armor. This is your protection. This is the truth that keeps you free. The specific promise to yourself. Make yourself a promise right now. Promise yourself that no matter how long the avoidant persists, no matter how sophisticated their tactics become, no matter how many angles they try, you will not respond. You will not engage. You will not make reconnection easy. Promise yourself that you will honor the commitment you made the day you left. Promise yourself that you will protect your own healing above their desire to reconnect. Promise yourself that you will keep moving forward. This promise is sacred. This promise is between you and yourself, and this promise is what will carry you through every difficult moment, and you will keep this promise, not because you are being stubborn or cruel or unforgiving, but because you respect yourself, because you honor your own needs, because you have recognized your own worth. Make this promise now. Write it down if it helps. Repeat it to yourself whenever you need to. You will not respond. You will not make reconnection easy. You will keep moving forward. This is your promise to yourself, and you will keep it. The absolute final truth that matters. At the very end of all of this, at the bottom of everything you have read and everything you have thought and everything you have felt, there is one truth that supersedes all others. That truth is this: you are worthy of love that shows up. You are worthy of presence that is consistent. You are worthy of intimacy that is genuine and reciprocal. The avoidant could not give you these things, and nothing, not their escalated attempts at reconnection, not their performance of change, not their desperation to win you back, can change this fundamental reality. You deserve better. You are capable of building something better, and you are actively building it right now through your refusal to make reconnection easy. Hold this truth close. Let it sustain you. Let it carry you forward into the life that awaits you. You are worthy. You are enough. You are completely, totally, absolutely deserving of a life built on genuine love and mutual respect. And that life is waiting for you just beyond the difficulty of this moment. Keep going. You are almost there. Your freedom is yours. Claim it now and forever. Your freedom is here. Your peace is waiting. Your future is calling. Answer the call. Step into your freedom. You have earned it through the difficulty of this process. This is where your real life begins, right now, in this moment of complete commitment to yourself. So go forward, build, become, live the life that belongs entirely to you. You are free. This is the absolute final truth.